Imagine for a moment that your entire existence has been influenced by an unseen force, an invisible law that dictates every fear, every desire, and every belief you hold. You may think you're the architect of your own thoughts, but what if this force has been shaping you in ways so subtle, so deeply ingrained in your psyche, that you've never even noticed it? This law isn't written in any official document, nor is it imposed by any religion, government, or authority. It exists in the shadows of your mind, woven into the unconscious layers of your being. And yet, it is this very law that governs your life. Understanding its influence is not just crucial, but vital, because only when you uncover its presence can you begin to dismantle its hold. Only then can you tap into the boundless potential that lies dormant, waiting to be unlocked. But be warned, the knowledge you're about to confront is not a simple revelation. Once you unmask this hidden truth, you cannot ignore it. It will challenge your very sense of self and everything you thought you knew about life. This truth is transformative, and with it comes a profound awakening that could forever alter the course of your life. The person who delved deeply into these unseen forces, the hidden parts of our psyche, was Jung. His exploration of the unconscious mind led him to a groundbreaking discovery, the concept of the shadow. Jung believed that within each of us exists a realm of untapped power, but also of rejection, shame, and fear. This shadow is often the very thing that controls us from the depths of our unconscious mind, affecting our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we rarely understand. Section 1. The shadow. The hidden forces of the self. The shadow is a term that can seem mysterious at first, but it refers to an undeniable truth about human nature. This part of yourself exists below the surface of your awareness, deeply embedded in the unconscious mind. The shadow is made up of the traits, desires, and emotions that society, through its rules, expectations, and judgments, deems unacceptable. These parts are pushed aside, buried in the darkness of your psyche, but they don't disappear. Instead, they fester there, unacknowledged, quietly influencing your thoughts, decisions, and actions. The traits you refuse to embrace, your jealousy, your anger, your selfishness, remain hidden, shaping you in ways you may not even realize. This is the shadow, the parts of you that are denied, rejected, and cast into the dark corners of your inner world, waiting to be integrated, acknowledged, and understood. As a child, society plays a pivotal role in defining what is acceptable and what is not. Parents, teachers, peers, and even the media teach you what it means to be good or bad, to conform or deviate. You are praised for certain behaviors and shamed for others, all of which gradually mold your understanding of self-worth. When you are told that certain emotions or desires are inappropriate, your natural reactions and feelings are suppressed. Over time, these rejected parts accumulate in the unconscious, making up the bulk of your shadow. The more you adapt to external expectations, the more you push aside the raw, unfiltered aspects of your true self. These repressed qualities, however, do not disappear. They merely slip into the depths, waiting for a chance to resurface in unpredictable ways. Rejection is the birthplace of the shadow. When you deny an aspect of yourself, whether it's an emotion, a desire, or even a strength, it's relegated to the unconscious. This process of rejection is often a survival mechanism, an adaptive response to the fear of judgment, rejection, or exclusion. However, this rejection creates a divide within your psyche, where the parts of you that don't fit society's idealized version of you are buried out of sight. The shadow, then, is not just a collection of traits, but a reflection of your internal battle between your true self and the image you are compelled to present to the world. These repressed aspects are constantly at odds with the persona you project, and this inner conflict often manifests in negative patterns of behavior, self-sabotage, or emotional turmoil. The very parts you try to suppress are the ones that, in many cases, drive your deepest impulses and reactions. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism that reveals how deeply the shadow can influence your perceptions. Often, The traits you despise or find irritating in others are reflections of something within yourself that you refuse to acknowledge. For example, if someone's arrogance makes you feel uncomfortable, it's possible that you are projecting your own repressed feelings of superiority or insecurity onto them. The same is true for traits you admire in others. Sometimes, what you envy or are drawn to is simply a reflection of a hidden aspect of yourself that you have not yet integrated. When you fail to confront your shadow, it finds a way to express itself, often through the people you interact with or the situations you encounter. These projections, in turn, shape your reality and relationships, as you are unable to see people and situations as they truly are, but only through the lens of your own unconscious biases. Ultimately, the shadow controls you in ways that are subtle yet profound. You might think you are making conscious decisions, but many of your actions are actually driven by these unconscious forces. By failing to recognize and integrate the shadow, you remain at the mercy of these hidden influences, unable to break free from the automatic patterns of behavior they dictate. This unconscious grip is what keeps you stuck in cycles of self-doubt, shame, and unfulfilled desires. The path to liberation lies in confronting the shadow head-on, facing the parts of yourself that you have ignored, rejected, or feared. It is only through this confrontation that you can begin to reclaim the energy and power locked within your unconscious mind. Now that we've explored the fundamental nature of the shadow, it's time to examine the consequences of leaving these parts of yourself unaddressed, and how doing so can derail your personal growth and relationships. Section 2. The Forbidden Law: Confronting Your Shadow. Carl Jung's warning is clear. You must confront your shadow, or it will control you. This isn't just a philosophical statement. It's a vital truth for anyone seeking personal growth and self-awareness. Your shadow, the unconscious aspects of yourself you've repressed, holds immense power over your behavior, emotions, and decisions. When you refuse to face it, you become a puppet of these hidden forces. You might think you're in control of your life, but the truth is, your shadow is often the one pulling the strings. Until you confront this unconscious force, you will remain at the mercy of the beliefs and patterns you can't see. Jung knew that this confrontation is not a mere option. It's a necessity. Ignoring the shadow means allowing it to define your actions, your relationships, and your sense of self. Only through direct engagement with this darker side can you hope to reclaim control and make conscious choices, rather than be driven by unseen impulses. Living under the illusion that you truly understand yourself while your unconscious mind dictates your choices is a dangerous trap. The illusion of self-awareness is seductive, and many people believe that they know who they are simply because they can verbalize their beliefs or understand their surface-level behaviors. But what happens when you make decisions without truly knowing the hidden forces at play inside you? When your unconscious drives are left unchecked, they influence every part of your life in subtle, often destructive ways. You may think you're acting from a place of freedom, but in reality, your actions are shaped by forces you aren't aware of. For example, a seemingly confident decision might stem from deep-seated insecurity or a suppressed desire for approval. Your shadow, unnoticed and unaddressed, uses these unconscious biases to mold your life, keeping you trapped in patterns you don't even recognize. The cost of living in such an illusion is immense. You are never truly free. It's like trying to steer a ship blindfolded. You may feel the wheel in your hands, but the course you're setting is directed by unseen forces. Facing the shadow is far from easy. It's a journey riddled with discomfort, fear, and resistance. When you confront these parts of yourself, you are forced to confront truths that you'd rather avoid. These are the aspects of you that have been buried in the darkness for years, often because they are too painful or too unsettling to acknowledge. Maybe it's your anger, your jealousy, or your tendency to manipulate others to maintain control. Whatever it is, these truths hold power. But that power isn't always pretty. It can bring discomfort, shame, and grief. The resistance to facing your shadow comes from the fear that you are not who you believe yourself to be. You have built a carefully constructed persona, and to admit that parts of you are not as pure or righteous as you've convinced yourself can feel like a collapse of everything you've worked to project. However, this resistance is the very reason you must confront your shadow. Avoiding it keeps you imprisoned in a false self, while facing it forces you to grow and evolve. Integrating the shadow is a transformative process that allows you to reclaim the power locked within the unconscious. By bringing these hidden aspects of yourself into the light, you begin to see how they have shaped your life, often without your knowledge. This is where real change happens, not in rejecting these parts of you, but in accepting them as integral components of the whole self. Integration isn't about fixing or improving yourself. It's about recognizing and owning all of who you are, both the light and the dark. When you integrate the shadow, you gain access to the energy, creativity, and potential that was previously constrained by denial. In this process, you free yourself from the unconscious patterns that once dictated your choices. It's like unlocking a door to an inner reservoir of untapped power. This reclamation is the key to personal transformation, allowing you to live authentically and with greater clarity. The more you integrate, the more you grow into a more complete, self-aware version of yourself. In this journey of confronting and integrating the shadow, you find your greatest source of strength. The deeper you go into the darkness, the more you realize that it holds not only your deepest fears, but also your untapped potential. This process of integration can lead to a more fulfilling life, one where you no longer operate on automatic, reacting to situations based on unresolved conflicts from the past. But transformation doesn't end here. The work of self-awareness and shadow integration is ongoing. And once you've begun to engage with your shadow, you're ready to explore how this process influences your relationships and your understanding of others. Section 3. Transformation through shadow integration. Within the very traits you fear and reject lies an untapped source of power. This is the paradox of the shadow. You may look at your darker aspects, your anger, your jealousy, or your insecurities, and wish they would vanish. But the truth is, these very traits are the raw material for your greatest strengths. When you suppress these aspects, they remain in the shadows, silently influencing your decisions and behavior. But when you begin to face them, you realize that the anger you've repressed can fuel your passion for change. The jealousy can guide you toward understanding your own desires, and the insecurities can motivate you to seek true self-acceptance. It's not about eliminating these traits, but about transforming them into allies. The shadow, when integrated, becomes a wellspring of energy, creativity, and resilience. Your greatest strengths lie hidden within the very parts of you that you fear to acknowledge. This is the first step toward transformation, understanding that your potential is born from the things you've denied and rejected. Shadow work isn't just about facing your fears, it's about healing and wholeness. Jung called this process individualization, where you integrate both the light and dark aspects of the self to become a complete, authentic being. It's easy to think of the good aspects of you as the ones that define your true self, your kindness, your generosity, your achievements. But without recognizing and integrating the darker parts of your psyche, you remain fragmented, operating from a place of denial. True healing occurs when you can see both sides of yourself clearly, accepting that all parts of you belong. This doesn't mean glorifying the shadow or letting it dominate, but rather allowing it to exist as a part of your entire being. When you accept the full spectrum of your nature, you heal the divisions within yourself and begin to live more authentically. The process of individualization is a lifelong journey of embracing both the light and the dark, not as opposing forces, but as complementary parts of who you truly are. The path to shadow integration begins with self-awareness. You cannot integrate something you are not aware of. The first step in this process is to develop the capacity to see your shadow, the hidden aspects of yourself that are often difficult to acknowledge. This requires honesty, courage, and a willingness to look at the parts of yourself that you've buried deep inside. Once you recognize the shadow, the next step is acceptance. It's about understanding that these traits are not inherently bad. They are simply parts of you that have been neglected or denied. This acceptance doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather recognizing that every part of you has a role to play in your overall growth. The final step is expression, the process of allowing your true self to emerge, unshackled by the limitations of the persona you've created. By integrating the shadow, you unlock a deeper, more authentic version of yourself, and you begin to live with more clarity and purpose. When you integrate your shadow, you cease to live in reaction to the world around you. Instead, you begin to create your reality consciously. The unconscious forces that once dictated your behavior lose their grip, and you take charge of your choices. This is the ultimate freedom, the ability to respond to life from a place of authenticity, not from fear or conditioning. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and become the creator of your experience. When you no longer react out of old wounds or suppressed emotions, you can consciously shape your future. This shift in perspective is the key to living a life that is truly yours, free from the constraints of the past. The process of integrating the shadow is transformative because it frees you from the unconscious patterns that once limited your potential. You no longer live in the shadows. You stand in the light of your own self-knowledge and power. Jung believed that the process of integrating the shadow is not just psychological growth, it's a spiritual awakening. As you engage with the hidden parts of yourself, you begin to transform your relationship with the world around you. This process doesn't just change you internally, it alters the way you interact with everything and everyone. By confronting the shadow, you learn to see others with more empathy, understanding that their shadows too are part of their own journey. The integration of the shadow fosters a deeper connection to the collective human experience and a greater understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings. This awakening is spiritual in nature because it transcends the individual and speaks to the shared truths of existence. When you embrace your shadow, you enter into a new realm of awareness, one that opens you up to a more profound and meaningful way of being in the world. The transformation that occurs is not just personal, it's universal. Next, we'll explore how embracing this deeper understanding of yourself can transform your relationships and open the door to authentic connection with others.